Kira Young.
Thanks, Swami, and thanks, listeners, for joining us today. We got a great show planned for you. We have a special guest that's here all the way from Oklahoma, and he is the man responsible for me knowing how to speak any Choctaw at all. Halito Yannash, how are you today?
Halito, Kira, I'm well. I appreciate you guys having me here today.
We wanted to have you on because I really am a fan of your work and what you're doing, and I think it's really important. You're preserving the Choctaw language, and you're teaching a wider audience than has been taught in the past, and thereby really helping to preserve the language. Usually there's no teaching that really goes on very much outside of the reservation, and you're doing it online. You have your own YouTube channel, and so people who may not have had the opportunity to learn the language have that opportunity through you. So if you want to just tell us a little bit about how that whole thing started for you and what you're doing now in the community.
Well, initially the program or the curriculum we devised started out through the actual Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma's language department. And I was asked to become a certified instructor because in my family we're all speakers. And I was raised a speaker. My grandparents raised me. My grandmother, my Pokney, she spoke very little English. So in order to communicate with her, I was basically forced. It was a sink or swim situation on that. And I'm glad. I mean, my grandfather, he was a minister, Presbyterian minister for 38 years, and all his sermons were completely in Choctaw. So
wow.
I spent a lot of my time in the front row listening to that Choctaw. And you know, as the son or grandson of a preacher, you're expected to sit up there in the front row. No basketball in the outside. So
right.
so I was fortunate. I was fortunate that I didn't feel so fortunate then, but as I got older, I realized that a lot of my relatives had lost something that we grew up with. And in order for my father to ensure that I would always speak Choctaw, he named me Yannash. And even though his name is Ron and my brother's name is Chris and my mother's name is Teresa, they named me Yannash. And in this way, my dad knew that I would speak Choctaw every day, even just introducing myself.
Right.
So
it's beautiful. So how did it get taken off the reservation and into the cyber world where it could reach a wider audience? Well,
a big portion of our tribe, the Choctaw tribe, there is a very small portion that is still on the reservation in Mississippi. And because of the Trail of Tears, we were migrated to Oklahoma.
Yep.
And, of course, we had a lot of contact with a lot of different tribes. And just to set a basis for the language bridge, we are from the Muskogean dialect. And there are 3 different dialects of Native American, the Algonquin, and, of course, the dialect they speak over in the Canadas. And those are the 3 major dialect families. And, of course, Choctaw is Muskogean. And after a lot of research and a lot of talking to different tribes and language instructors, you know, we realized that Choctaw is actually the mother of Muskogean dialect. So you can go to Chickasaw territory and speak Choctaw. I speak Choctaw with Chickasaws all the time, and they understand me. As a matter of fact, if I go to a Chickasaw church, their hymns are sung from a Choctaw hymnal. They don't have a Chickasaw hymnal, just a Choctaw hymnal.
Right.
The Coshada.
There's a similar relationship with the Ojibwe and the Potawatomi because they're both Algonquin. Yeah. So
Absolutely.
you can, yeah.
Well, you know, trading had a lot to do with that. But as it came down here to Oklahoma, we started speaking a little bit slower. I just came from Mississippi, so I've got plenty of comparison to glean from. And trust me, I heard a lot of things that I had never heard while I was there. But I also heard a lot of things that I heard as a child that I had forgotten. And it was nice to get back to them roots. But getting back to where we were at, the Choctaw language slowed up a little bit. We started assuming English names, speaking English more often, not to mention the fact that most of our Indian kids here in Oklahoma were rounded up after statehood and put into boarding schools where they were beat and they were brainwashed out of their language. If they spoke their language, they were beat. If they asserted to something that was part of their heritage, they were tortured. My grandfather, he was in a Catholic boarding school here in Oklahoma, and they beat him frequently, and he still managed to hold on to that language.
Yeah.
But if you listen to Choctaw hymns, they are in the style of English hymns, like Amazing Grace. People will say, I sing Amazing Grace in Choctaw. Well, that song is sung to the tune of Amazing Grace. But those are actually medicine songs that were conformed to fit English hymns so that it would be acceptable to speak our language. Mm-hmm. And I get a lot of
survive.
Absolutely. And I've heard a lot of Choctaws come up to me and say, Yannash, you sing a lot of them old Christian Choctaw hymns. And I said, well, these songs aren't really Christian. These are our medicine songs. This was, when I hear them songs, they say to me, we found a way.
Yeah. We found a way to keep it.
Absolutely. And a lot of people that sing these songs nowadays, unfortunately, Choctaws that sing these songs, don't have a clue what these words mean.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm working on that's what I'm working against actually right now, with the whole dehumanization of our people because of the way we spoke our language. Take the word for turkey. You may have seen that I everything's forgiven. I'm on a campaign. Just say fuck it. That's how we say turkey in Choctaw.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
That's our word, fuck it.
Right.
And
no wonder I say it so much.
Yours has a little different flavor to it, Kira. Yeah.
Pardon my English.
Can I tell you something, Yannash?
Yeah.
This Swami wants to express a deep thank you because I graduated high school in Idabel, Oklahoma, and my brother married a native woman from Broken Bow, Oklahoma.
All right.
And hearing your voice just takes me back to when I was living in Oklahoma, and it's quite refreshing, and I thank you for that.
Well, I appreciate your appreciation. I was going to tell you guys, the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma has changed up in the past 15 years, and now they say akamp taha, which means tall chicken, and they no longer say fuck it, because if you look in the dictionary, they even put that it has recently been changed because it has been found offensive. I'm sorry if my language
that's silly.
Politics, man. Politics.
I've got nothing better to do.
And that was approved by our own tribal government.
Right.
I couldn't believe that.
Tribal governments, they're operating out of my whole thing is that this country and actually the entire world was invaded by psychopathic people who had the need to take over and destroy. And so all we have left is culture to preserve. We all have been mixing since the beginning of time. So the whole thing about race is really more of a illusion overlay to the real issue, which is culture, which is directly connected to language. So that's why they had to try to destroy our language because that destroys our culture and our spirit. And, I deem that as psychopathic. It's not race related for me because I'm all these other things too. And so I don't buy into there's a certain race of people that are evil or anything like that. I can understand why people would go there because the things that happened were just so evil that it was so hard to figure out, and still is, the crazy things that go on in the world.
And there's another thing that I'm fighting right now. I have, in our native community here in Oklahoma, we have Choctaws who are full-blood who don't speak any language at all, lost it
right.
within their families. Mm-hmm. And, but they think that it's called a blood quantum war. I'm sure you're aware of that, what goes on. A lot of tribal members believe that at a certain degree of blood quantum of tribal membership shouldn't exist. And
and that's playing right into their hands of because I'd actually have a blog post about this on my blog, Psychopaths in Charge, that it's a that government policy is exactly a psychopathic policy because it ignores the family, ignores real connections, and it ignores real culture and how
it
culture
cuts
really
down your
fits.
numbers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? It doesn't serve any purpose because it causes division.
Exactly.
And I mean, no matter what they say about the strength and the unity of the tribe, this blood quantum issue will always be an issue, and they want it to continue to be an issue because as long as we're quibbling over scraps because of degree of Indian blood, everything else gets lost and becomes commercial. Yeah. Everything down here in Oklahoma, if you see language and if you see culture, the next thing you're going to hear out of their mouth is marketing.
Mm-hmm.
When you go to the reservation in Mississippi, those Choctaws are afraid to tell anybody anything over there because so many of the people in power here over our tribe go over there under the guise of cultural diversity, and then they take what little bit we have off the reservation, bring it back here to Oklahoma, and flash it up there in front of their casino, on their casino billboards, powwows, language and things of that sort. And it's because we become commerce to these people.
Right.
Go out there and put on a show,
Right, absolutely. And everything that's being done down here right now is just a show.
Yeah.
And I try to tell these people, hey, you're putting on our regalia and you're doing our sacred dances and you don't have a clue what they mean. And in the meantime, you're getting your photo op, but you're selling a piece of art every time you do that. And I'm totally against dressing up our tribal members, especially the dark ones, and sending them down to the Smithsonian to parade around for the Great White Chief or whichever chief happened to be in power at the time. I'm totally against that. I mean, you might as well just round us up and put us in a zoo or get us back on the old Wild Bill Hickok Western shows.
I've got a little.
Where powwow came, right? I mean, that's where the powwow tradition comes from, is the Wild West shows.
Absolutely,
directly out of that.
I've got a native language bit of story from my actual experience in Oklahoma I would like to share. Once upon a time, this Swami and another white guy were sitting in a very small town in Oklahoma arguing over how to pronounce the name. I said it was pronounced Chickashaw. He says it's pronounced Chickashay. So we stop the gal who's wiping up the tables in the little fast food joint, who was a native woman. And I called her over and I said, excuse me, can you tell us where we are and say it real slow? And she looks at me very odd, squints her eyes and goes, Dairy Queen.
Dairy Queen. Outstanding. And was that in Chickashay?
Yeah. No, Chick. Yep. I used to live in Bowlegs.
Oh, I know where Bowlegs is.
Yeah. I lived all over Oklahoma in my early years as a radio disc jockey and doing all kinds of stupid things. But anyway, that was my little native language experience there.
Hey, I'm gonna steal that one.
Hey, you're welcome to it.
Please do.
But back to where we started.
Yeah.
I was in the military for 10 years, and I was an infantry soldier, been to 5 different countries. And in the course of, in less than 6 years, I was shipped away to 5 different countries. I learned 5 different languages. And when I came back to the States and I got back to my home, I started getting around my kinfolk and all that, and I realized I had lost my language in the course of all that, not using it very often. I mean, with the exception of little words here and there, I'd realized, I was like, wow, I've lost a bunch of my language. And as I started talking to my cousins who grew up with me, I realized that they had just let it go too. So I started going to churches, and I started listening to elders and all that, and that was my first indication that something needed to be done. So I started going to the Choctaw Nation and materials from their class and kind of revisiting my language. And when they asked me to go to this certification, which they do every month, they do 5 to 10 certifications. They've been doing this for years. I mean, you do that many instructors every month, surely there should be some speakers out. But
yeah.
I went to this seminar, this certification, and in the 3 days that I was, put up in this beautiful hotel, and had all these extravagant meals served to us, in the interim, I never heard a bit of Choctaw being spoken. And they handed me all these books, and they said, really, all you got to do to be an instructor is copy this off, say a few of these words, send them home with some homework, say we'll see you next week, and we'll give you $50.
Wow.
Yeah, for every time you do that. Don't matter how long your class is. It could be 20 minutes. Just hand them, copy this off, hand them this worksheet, because they have to be able to show results as well.
Mm-hmm.
In order to check a block. Yeah, in order to check a block for the BIA so they can keep getting that free money.
Mm-hmm.
And
wow.
Not a single one of them language instructors that I went through certification with ever spoke a bit of Choctaw in their life except for the first, like the colors, the numbers, but the things that I put on for introductory course.
Right.
And I was just shocked.
Which is where I'm at. I'm at the introductory courses.
Right, and I've revamped. Absolutely, and I revamped the curriculum because what they were teaching didn't really gel with what I was taught. And yes, there are 6 different dialects of our language, but they're not that far diluted. And I was just shocked at how many of these instructors kept leaning on that, because there would be full-blood elders in there would say, well, this is how we say where I'm from. And they'd be like, well, that must be another dialect.
Mm-hmm.
If we're going to mainstream the language, let's pick a dialect. Let's save this language, I went back to what the problem was, and I realized that all our kids have been institutionalized through English curriculum. What I did was I went and I started them in English format. And if you notice, that's how I speak it in videos.
Yeah.
And I don't use English in my videos because I believe the only way to learn is total immersion. That's how I learned.
Yeah, that is the only way to learn.
Absolutely.
That is. Yeah.
And I was threatened by putting my videos up because infringing on some kind of copyright. I don't know whose copyright they were going to represent, because the seal of the Choctaw Nation isn't even copyrighted. It belongs to the people.
Right. Right.
But they threatened me with that, and I said, well, let's go.
Well done. Bring it on.
Well, guess
what you got?
Yeah. Well, then they said, okay, well, you can do your, but we're not going to help you, which was fine. I knew that was coming because I wasn't real pleased with, because our director, unfortunately, right now, the director in place, doesn't speak Choctaw at all. And
wow.
The language director. Yeah, I was shocked when I met our language director. I spoke Choctaw, and he didn't. But he's the one who approves all the curriculum being put out.
Well, that's a very Caucasian way of running things, isn't it?
I was going to say that, but not in such a nice vernacular. But yeah, it was mighty wide open. But so that's what. I mean, I've had more people. I think that I've developed a curriculum that is a little more friendly to the Choctaw who has never been around their language.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah.
And it's also refreshing to Choctaws that do speak because they hear the words, they know, and they're able to delve a little deeper into it, because they hear words that maybe they didn't hear. Because when we speak our language, we speak it fast. When I'm on a video, I may say, right. But I'm saying, and it's so fast.
Yeah.
Nobody can get all the vowel sounds. So,
and you pronounce over and over so that you get a chance to hear it more than once, and then it kind of gets in there.
Right.
Easier.
And
yeah.
I'm glad that it's working for people. Here, I was especially glad to see people that really hadn't had any, exposure to their culture. They picked up so quick, and not only were they picking it up, but you guys were using it. I encouraged you to use it. I posted in Choctaw, and you would respond in Choctaw, and it just kept growing. And I don't know if you've been monitoring things here lately. I haven't posted as many videos because I'm developing a new curriculum right now to bring it to another level now, a little more conversation and relevance. And but I don't know if you've noticed, but a lot more people are speaking in that format now, or even posting in that format.
Yeah, I have noticed. I've definitely noticed, and I've been able to connect with a lot more Choctaw people, and we go back and forth with it, and it's a beautiful thing.
Way to be a way shower, Yannash.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It won't be long before.
And you don't need permission.
That's right. I don't need permission.
When you got skills, you don't need permission.
You have from whatever you need. You got.
Well, great. I'm glad that you guys are using it, too, because for the longest time when I first started, I know that Native American Times had called the tribe, and they were like, hey, we want to do a story on one of your instructors. And then they said, Yannash. And the next thing I know, their media department was like, we're not going to let you run any stories on this guy. And if you do, we're pulling all our accounts from your paper.
Oh.
And the editor called me, and she said, hey, Yannash, we're not going to be able to run your story. And I said, hey, that's fine. I'm a community thing. I'm grassroots. I was doing, you guys called me, And then I guess our editor was like, hey, you know what? We represent 125 tribes. So if you want to pull your account, go right ahead, but we're going to run our stories. And
there you go.
And it raised more of we had more students wanting to know what the buzz was about, so they kind of helped me out in that way to get the word out to everybody about the classes. And I've got a great board of directors. My wife is on there. She speaks Choctaw. She's a non-native, and she's dedicated to learning our language, and she's done an excellent job. And I have her in some of our videos as well, speaking the language.
That's wonderful.
And
when you get married, you become family, and that's all part of that.
Absolutely. And I thought it would motivate some of our Indians to say, well, if that white woman can speak Choctaw, I guess I better get on the ball.
Exactly. I'm sure that me singing at powwows probably spurred on some people who said, hey, if that white woman can sing like that, maybe I could sing too. So, yeah. and
you know,
I just go where I'm invited.
There you go. And you know what? Someone had posted something not too long ago about blood quantum, or the blood that runs through our veins. It's not so much about that, but the spirit.
Yeah.
I mean,
some of the most sincere people are like your wife. They're not even native, but they love the language and the culture so much, and they become a part of it and preserve it just as much. I mean, that's a huge part of Native history in general is the adoptive quality of our families, and how we, you know, my son said to me, one of the first things he said to me was when he found out that he was a miracle and I couldn't have other kids, and he was really upset, and he was like, well, we can just, adopt. We can just adopt, because he was like 4, adopt, and they'll be Indian like us when we adopt them. I was like, wow.
There you go.
Well, I mean, no one can see your blood, but they feel and come to know the spirit that makes that blood move. That's a marker of a man or a woman.
Well, and right now, unfortunately, I mean, I have no illusions. I served the military honorably for 10 years, and I've been in that machine. But I'm under no illusion about sovereignty. And I'm under no illusion about whose country is whose. I understand the history behind this country. I also understand the present. And I do know that as long as we continue to live in the past and resentful, we will never move forward. Because the biggest portion of our Native communities spend 99% of their time dwelling on what we're supposed to be getting. These treaties, these false documents of hope. I have so many of my friends and relatives who say, well, the U.S. government is supposed to honor. Okay, keep saying that. Maybe one day it'll come true. But it's also, I've also seen that it's caused a different side to our people, a complacency, because they're waiting for that treaty to finally, be honored. It's never going to happen, folks. We have to do for ourselves.
Yeah.
You got to pull up your bootstraps with what you've got today, joining community, and do something.
Absolutely.
I call it living in lack, and I saw this a lot when my husband was the chairman of Intertribal Friendship House out in Oakland, California, and it was, give me mines because I'm owed, because I was wrong, and that's valid, but at the same time you have to move beyond that, because until you're always asking permission when you're living in lack, and you always are wanting more and not appreciating what we have, and the whole basis of our spirituality is about gratitude. I mean, that's the basis of our spirituality. So that takes us, that mode of being, waiting for permission and waiting to get yours takes us out of who we really are, culturally and spiritually.
Absolutely. And right now I'm fighting that. I mean, believe it or not, even in the year 2014, I'm still fighting that right now. Well, the white man still owes us this. This is our land. I know history. I know the history. But the simple fact of the matter is, it's not going to happen without people working. We can't just sit there and expect these things to happen.
Well, they haven't happened thus far. So what indication is there they will happen in the future? What we do have is one another motivated to support one another, uplift one another, so let's just get on with it.
That's right. That's right. And you know what? Just to kind of play both sides of the fence there, I understand with the U.S. government. Believe it or not, I am a patriot. But I do know that the U.S. government has employed certain tactics to keep certain cultures and races down with that kind of thinking.
Yep.
And having a reservation, to me, is absurd.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it gives them, and to give them all these things doesn't really, is not progress to be stuck on a reservation and never leave.
Right.
When
you can't hunt.
It's a prisoner of war camp.
Right.
But how could it?
Here's lots of whiskey. Get lazy, get diabetes, and die.
Right.
Yeah.
But they also employ legislators and politicians, these politicians that are supposed to be representing us, serving the people. They are encouraging this mindset, this complacency.
Yeah.
And they give them jobs in their casinos, dumping ashtrays and wiping down machines. And, you know, Oklahoma doesn't have a reservation, but it has a high native population with a high population of gambling casinos. And the only Indians you see in them casinos are sweeping the floors and dumping the ashtrays. And they employ all these families. And then, if you want to speak out or you want to do something different, well, don't your family work for this casino?
Right. They hold it over you.
Absolutely. These people are being extorted and used as, indentured servants to their own tribal government. And, you know, I know, hey, I'm glad you let me say it because, you know, it needs to be exposed.
Yeah, it needs to be
really,
said. And that,
all these government officials expect kudos and high praise, which they're getting from tribal members from all over the United States, not the Indians who live here in the actual state, about what a great job they're doing and all that. And they're getting all this high praise. It's not them, they're the Choctaw Nation. It is the people here that make the Choctaw. And somewhere down the line, even our own people have forgotten that they are the Choctaw Nation.
Right.
mm-hmm.
What would happen, Yannash, in your estimation, if the checks stopped coming? Then the nation would band together and they would take care of each other. Period. And those who were standing with a stick and using their blood quantum whatever to work in a Caucasian constructed system would be left on the outside to starve. Don't you think?
Well, you know, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, as long as we're divided as a people, they will always prosper.
Absolutely. That's the only way they can win, with just a few.
And they're doing it.
Like you said, fighting over scraps.
Yeah. Fighting over scraps. A free turkey at Thanksgiving. Because, you know what, I get shocked looks from people when they say, oh, you're Choctaw? I bet you like that check you get every year. Choctaws don't get any money.
Right.
And we're one of the richest tribes in North America. And I'm not about it because I don't work for the tribe. I make my own money. And all the little things I do for the people, I do out of my own pocket because I have to. Because it's my tribe. It's my people. It's my job.
And it's the right thing to do. Simple.
Absolutely. I don't expect. I'm not running for nothing, but I ain't running from nothing. And you know, this is the epidemic in Oklahoma. This really is the epidemic in Oklahoma. What they've done is they've flooded our membership so that they don't have to give each of our members anything, which I don't believe that we should be expecting anything. Because my grandpa raised me to work for myself. He's a full-blood Choctaw. We didn't have nothing. We were Choctaws in the lean times. And he always taught me never to walk around with my hand out. He said, he goes, a closed mouth never gets fed. He said, you keep your mouth open, but you keep your hands to yourself. You know what I mean?
Nice, man.
And he was letting me know, hey, we're not those kind of people. We don't expect anything because we do for ourselves. And you know what? That was our heritage at one time. And now I get all these looks from my non-native friends and my colleagues who are just like, man, you guys got it made. Y'all get free health care. I don't get any of that. I don't know where they're seeing
Yeah. Yeah, people have crazy ideas. They think that, natives don't have to pay taxes and, everybody's just getting like huge per cap checks and,
and everybody gets issued a 3-bedroom brick home? What?
Yeah.
Or
we're talking about
waiting lists.
Hey, we're talking about waiting lists for those kind of things that are decades long. And if for some reason you fall back on the requirements just for anything in that period that you're waiting, they just drop your application to the back.
Yep.
Hey, if you really knew what was going on in our tribal governments, people wouldn't look at us like we're handout Indians. And unfortunately, that's what I get is that look of, oh, yeah, you're an Indian. You got it made. Really? I work 60-hour weeks, so I'm living high, I guess. I mean, I guess everybody else is working 80-hour weeks.
Yeah. And but you're still growing your garden and providing for your family free.
Hey, these were things that were taught to me very young about being self-sufficient by Choctaws, by full-blood who understood that it was up to us to reap the gifts that were given us by Creator. Because even in the English saying, God helps those who help themselves.
Yep.
So it don't matter who your Creator is. He expects you to do your part too.
Yeah. Or nothing happens. It's like you can't just. It's like that old, all the New Agers sitting around like, well, I'm thinking about what I want. It's like, you have to actually get off your ass and do it.
Right. The Creator done created you. The rest is your job.
Yeah. And our heritage and our culture, not just native and indigenous, but all around. The all-around attitude in the world today is not, I'm thankful for what I have. It's, I'm pissed off for what I ain't got yet. What's going on here?
Yeah.
Make it happen. Why are you waiting for it to happen?
Yeah, the thing that changed my life was when I did miraculously become pregnant with my son, and the doctor told me, we didn't know you could get pregnant, but now that you are, it's extraordinarily dangerous, and, your uterus could bust open and you could both die, and there's nothing you can do about it. And this is after 14 years of prayer. And I was like, you know what? I just don't think Creator's going to let this happen, this miracle happen, and then just take it away. And so it was that day that I started every day playing. My first prayers of the day are thank you. Thank you for my life, my relationships, and I started and I prayed and thanked for my son who wasn't here yet, but I prayed as if he already was here.
Right.
And and that's what I've been doing, and that has completely changed my life.
Well, yeah, in the spiritual path, if you will step on that path with honesty, dedication, and appreciation, you will get more to be appreciative of. If you step on it with, hey, you owe me, you'll get less.
And I pray to be fortunate enough to be able to share, because there is there is something sacred about sharing too, and that's what real wealth is, to be able to share. And that's what our ancestors taught us too, about what wealth really is, the ability to share.
Even physiologically, it's been proven that acts of charity are medicine. I mean, the feeling of what you do in charity is medicine, and we believe that too. In our old native culture, back in the day, a lot of people give me these crazy ideas of what an Indian is supposed to be, And back in the day, a lot of people say, "Oh, well, it's a sin to brag and boast," but in indigenous thinking back in the day, after a war, they would sit around the fire and they would say, "Hey, I ran up and I hit 2 of these guys." That makes me a good warrior, and they would brag on themselves. And you know what?
Yeah, that makes me a badass.
Right.
Yeah, and that was encouraged because it raised self-esteem. It made one feel good about themselves, and it made them confident in other skills that they needed to work on.
Right, and it builds esprit de corps.
Absolutely. A big portion of the esprit de corps, especially when your buddies are sitting there, cheering you on for bragging about your accomplishments in battle, And, I mean, I've been there. I know what that's all about, too, the combat aspect of that. I know, believe it or not, in the hard times, man, little things like that are what keeps a man sane. And, but provincial thinking and things like that make bragging and boasting a bad thing. When actually,
I think it's okay to consider it bragging and boasting if it's all hot air, and it's not true. If you've got the skills, talk about it.
Right. Well, modesty was brought on with the inception of the boarding school and all that. They were modest, even in attire, because our people wore very little. We're talking about people that inhabited Mississippi and Louisiana.
Right.
So you can only.
That's my people.
And hey, clothes are your enemy out there, really, in that heat.
I know.
And,
I'm not a secret nudist anymore. No.
Well, my wife, she's always like, she always has to make sure that I got something on when I walk around the house and someone knocks on the door. But I told her, I said, it's ingrained in my DNA.
It is. Yeah.
Let's take this point and we'll do our first little musical break. This is going to be about a 5-minute and 40-second song. So everybody take this opportunity, go get you another drink, go relieve yourself of a drink, whatever you need to do, go get her done. We'll be back here in just a minute with Kira Young on the bridge.
Yeah.
Brothers and sisters, welcome back to The Bridge. This is the Swami. I'm your big, hairy Swami troll that lives under the bridge and pushes all the buttons and keeps the phone line safe and happy. So please join me. Have a seat. Come on, right over here, right next to me. And let's listen to the conversation with Kira Young.
Thanks, Swami, and thanks for sticking around, Yannash. We're having a great conversation here, and I'm glad that you've come on because this is such a free environment to really talk about what's really going on, and you know, I'm glad that we're able to give you that opportunity because it sounds like you're not really getting much of that opportunity in Oklahoma these days. So.
Well, it's mainly the politics that are stunting our growth culturally in this area, and that's not to say that the tribe doesn't have employees and people that work in that system that don't do good work for our tribe, because we have a lot of people who work tirelessly for our people, not just
right. Oh, absolutely.
You know, and they're doing their best to rearrange seats in a sinking ship, if you will, you know. And so I don't want to take that away from them, but there is a higher echelon that controls everything that goes on within the tribe, because we're not a free people. We're a conquered, captured people, really, if you really want to get down to it. And we are mandated by certain protocols from the U.S. government. Sovereignty is a lie, and I'm just here to tell everyone. Sovereignty is a lie. I know everybody's going to be like, oh, I can't believe he said that. But it is a lie. And those... Go ahead.
We've come to the conclusion that it's really only something that you can achieve on an individual level on your own spiritual journey. You know, like spiritual sovereignty, personal sovereignty. That tribal sovereignty is a dream that or a dangling carrot that the government has out there for the people, so that they're not, you know, focusing on their individual sovereignty. You know.
Well, to lull them into complacency, you know. Basically.
Yeah. And
so
we celebrate what you're doing.
Go ahead.
Not asking permission, and teaching the language to anybody who wants to learn it and preserve it and celebrate it as the center of Choctaw culture, the real center. Not the fake center, which is the politics and all that stuff.
Absolutely. And really, that's what it's about, is maintaining the integrity of of the staple of our culture. And that leads me to another thing that we're involved in right now, and that's reawakening the oldest field sport in North America. It's called stickball, but in our language we call it kapochatoli. And it's similar to time. Kapochatoli.
Kapochatoli.
That's it, kapochatoli. Oh. And it's similar to the game. It's similar to the game of lacrosse. It uses, there are similarities. The rules are totally different. We have 2 poles set on each side of a football field, if you will, and 30 players on each side. Each player has 2 sticks, netted sticks that they use to fight over the toa, which is the little ball, and it's about the size of a golf ball. And this ball is pitched back and forth to each side of the field, and the object of the game to score is to hit the pole, which is the size of about a 4x4 plank, with that ball.
Takes some
meanwhile,
skill.
It takes some skill, and meanwhile you've got 5,900 players out on the field with sticks in their hands coming at you, and anything goes on the field. It's rugby with sticks.
Wow, that's hardcore. I bet the boys love it.
And they do.
Not
you know what? Right. What's not to love? But even our girls play it. Our girls play it with the same enthusiasm as the boys. The women, we have absolutely. And you know what? It's the lifeblood of everything we do, really. This game. It's more than a game, and if you see it as a game, then you're not really looking at it right.
Yeah.
because
you're building cooperation skill. You are building warcraft skill. You are all kinds of things.
And this game is called the Little Brother of War, and it was utilized back in hundreds of years ago. It was utilized to settle disputes between neighboring tribes. And they would set 300-400 warriors on each side battling over this one ball. And it was, of course, 2 or 3 warriors would get killed during the game because the game was in lieu of combat. And it was better to lose a couple, 2 or 3 warriors in a game of stickball than to lose 200-300 warriors in an actual battle. So it was called the Little Brother of War, right. And this is how we settled our disputes.
Wow.
And today it's still played with that same viciousness and that same pride for communities, because on the reservation they're divided into the communities. They have the Bochito community, they have Hikiatiap, the Standing Pine community. They have all of these different communities on this reservation, and they all play stickball, and they all play stickball when they're 2 or 3 years old. And this brings the community together, but it also brings the families together because they are so involved with having skilled stickball players in their family because it's our game, And
it's an honor, yeah.
Absolutely. And even every other part of the game is an honor. To be a drummer, the drums are being played rhythmic beat, and each team has its own drum beat, so the spectators can hear their team walking out on the field. They know them by the beat, and the lights go down at night.
I noticed when I saw your uniform or your it was like regalia. I mean, it's taken very seriously. It's important, and so everything about it, your regalia. I mean, you could call it your regalia. I wouldn't call it your uniform, but it's, you know, like your sports regalia or something. I don't know.
Well, see, and a lot of care is taken in the preparation of those, of the apron and the headbands. They have the diamonds on them, and you know, the diamonds are very, very, they're revered in our tribe. They say that we got the influence from the French, but the diamonds represent the diamondback rattlesnake, and we pay a lot of homage to that. And in this way, I not to get off, not to offend anyone, but in this way, Christianity has divided our culture and our tribes up in this way. Because we practiced a different religion before the Christians came to this area, and some of us are still traditional. And it has caused a major rift in the tribe, because there are full Choctaws who will snub traditionalists or won't go to a powwow, but they will dance up in those dadgum shirts, and they will dance around at the Smithsonian, knowing that those are our sacred dances, you know. And right now, Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma has had this big push of Christianity, and they have made it a point that Christianity is what they're pushing for, that they're going to make the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma the ministry. And I know what they're trying to do is they're trying to push out that last bit of traditionalism.
Yeah.
Our deity is not, right now they're trying to push in the Choctaw language that creator is Jehovah. And Shoah is not a Choctaw word. As a matter of fact, it's a mispronunciation of the word Jehovah. Our actual deity is Hoshkali. And we pay our honor and tribute to the Mother Earth, who gave birth to our people.
Right.
It's a very matriarchal type religion. And we engage in stomp dancing and green corn dances, and all that is kind of being hushed. And I noticed that even in the stickball games in Oklahoma now, they start the stickball games with just a regular Christian prayer.
Christian prayer.
Right. And I'm not banging on Christians. I'm just saying that we had a religion before Christianity came to the continent.
Yeah. And it was outlawed until 1978.
Absolutely. You're right.
Huge effect on people.
Yeah. And you know what? Our religion wasn't based on heathen practices or anything. Our religion was based on respect. All indigenous religions are centered on respect for fellow human beings.
Whether that's from India or Indians here in the U.S., the native, just the indigenous humans, regardless what piece of land they're standing on, that piece of land is on this one rock spinning through space.
That's right. And, you know...
And she's the sacred being.
That's right. And
that rock.
And not only that, but while I was over in Iraq and Afghanistan, you know, I took leave, and I went and visited Israel, and I went and visited Egypt, and I went to a mosque, and I went to the Wailing Wall. But the one thing that they all had in common was they all respected each other. And it's man who deviates from that traditional teaching, whether it be native Christianity, you know, and perverts it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the politicians love to pervert the religion. So.
Yes, they do. Because that's what takes us away from our spiritual journey, is these foreign religions that are hoisted upon us to conquer us.
Right.
You know,
as means of separation and control.
Yeah.
That's
but
right.
the original, the original intent of all religions is the celebration of life, and anything that does not respect life is, in my opinion and my thinking, part of what we call the control grid, which is all of those aspects of the overlaid culture on this land that are put out there to control us and keep us stunted in our spiritual journeys, whoever we may be. And this affects all of us, not just Native people. It affects Native people differently, but it affects non-Native people too. And we're at a point in the history of the world and this land where the government and the corporations, who are this one big control grid, and we call it the psychopathic control grid because that's their aim. It's pathological, and it denies life and it kills life. Is to keep us all in that spiritual ghetto. And by doing that, they're trying to keep us in poverty. That's what the whole 1% thing is. We can look at it like that. But these are the same people that have been controlling the world for centuries. And, they're psychopaths, and they're in charge. And they use religion, even though the original intent of every one of those religions was a good intent. They will use that to keep us down and to keep us from our full potential as spiritual beings, human beings.
Right.
That's my philosophy.
And the psychopaths that you talk about, their best friend is misinterpretation.
Yeah.
And, even my exposure to the Quran, I've gleaned very little hostility out of that book. And, I had quite a few Muslim friends in the military with me, and their translations differ from the overall, popular viewpoint of the Muslim and the Arabs,
Well, here's the straight up dope. If human beings take that the radical Islamists, the Al-Qaedas, ISIS, that kind of thing, are representative of the Muslim religion, then they have to then accept the KKK is the representative of Christianity.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's how it is.
Yeah.
Yep, that's their flag. The flag of Christianity and goodwill is the KKK.
Mm-hmm.
That's not, that's when I read their propaganda. I've been to a couple of rallies where they were recruiting, and I've read their propaganda, and everything is centered on Christianity. Boom. That's what they, not the particular beliefs, but they sure hail to God. They believe in a good, strong, white Christian family. And more power to them. But you know what? You know who the ISIS and the Al Qaeda and all those people were 200 years ago? Come on now, I don't have to ask, do I?
The CIA?
The Native Americans.
Yeah.
They were the insurgents.
Well, yeah.
Right. Right. Yeah. And that's what we call what we're doing right now is we call it insurgency, because we're any amount of truth is an insurgency to the control.
Absolutely.
That's
absolutely.
And you know all what? Of us.
You know what? And as a soldier who was liberating Muslims at one time, I can honestly say that that was a big thing. We were liberating, just like our Native Americans were liberating from tyrannies and culture. And as a soldier, you don't have the luxury of saying what's wrong or right. You just do. And now that I'm no longer in that machine, I had those same perspectives as a soldier. It made me think. The contact that I had with all these different cultures, the situations that I found myself in. But now, as a free Indian walking the earth, I can honestly say that there wasn't a whole lot of liberating going on while I was over there.
No.
Yeah.
All people got to do is take a look at, what was he, a 5-star general, Smedley Butler's War is a Racket.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
The only liberating that was going on while I was there was me trying to liberate myself to get home.
Right.
Right.
You know, after a tour, we just fighting to get home, man. You know?
Yeah.
And you turn your mind off to everything. And you become really numb and dark and cold.
Well, you have to. Because unfortunately, the activities and behaviors you're engaged in are there to deprive those humans of their resources.
Absolutely.
And how can you, with a good heart, do those things? So you have to turn the heart off. And that's why the PTSD comes and all the mental issues, because this just isn't right. There's no way to make it right.
Right. And you know what? It made me reflect when I came back on the plight of the Native American, and we did exactly the same thing to our people.
Yes.
In a different era, you know? I was like, wow, you know, I just got through doing over there what the United States government done to all natives.
Mhm.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean,
Mhm.
and you know what? We weren't even given the courtesy of a retrain, you know? They were like, oh, hey, you know what? No, we're going to put you on a reservation, but we're going to train you to fight. Well, hell no, that wasn't going to happen.
No. They were the only people who are afraid of having their guns taken away because ain't nobody else can have their guns taken away in America except Indians. And ain't nobody else can have their religious freedom taken away in America except American Indians.
That's right.
You know, the bishops and the bullshit they're talking about, their religious freedom is being impinged upon because they can't force their called morality down the throats of women working for minimum wage from don't get me started, you know. That's not religious freedom. That's religious tyranny. That is theocracy. And we know the difference between theocracy and real religious freedom. And we're not asking for permission for our religious freedom anymore. We're just going to do it.
That's right. We shouldn't have to ask for permission. That's supposed to be a creator-given right. Am I right?
Exactly.
Free will?
Exactly.
Right.
Okay. I thought we were all
you know. Yeah.
Man is born with certain inalienable rights.
That's right. We can use that document, too.
But the corporations are using it as toilet paper right now because they got more human rights than we do for some reason.
Hey, all that piece of paper is to me is another broken treaty.
Yeah, I'm for real.
You know, not just to Indians either. It's all Americans.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, and Americans, when non-Native Americans complain about that and all our rights getting taken away and the Constitution in shreds, I tell them, welcome to the res. Now you know.
Now you know.
Yeah. Because it's a war against
Hey, don't be mad.
Human.
I said it. Okay? Don't be mad because I said it. Just be mad because I didn't say it.
Well, I'm just figuring this stuff out, but yeah. But I have hope because, you know, our kids they get it. They get it real quick.
I hope so.
Yeah, I mean, my son, I figure stuff out, teach him, and he gets it right away, and I just figured it out. So I do have hope. I do.
I do too. And you know what? When I married my wife, she committed to learning my language. And really, there's no motivation other than the fact that, you know, she loves me and she's my wife and, you know, we're committed to each other. There's really no other obligation to learning my language, you know?
Yeah.
But
love and respect.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the only real thing that's going to keep things like our culture and our heritage and our language alive. You know, our love for it.
Yep.
And acknowledgement that we still exist.
Mhm. Yeah. Yep. That's why, and it's part of the language for non-native to speak about American Indians in the past tense, and you know, right to our faces, you know, and it's not consciously done by most people. It's totally unconscious, because everything they learned in school was about the past. If it had anything to do with Indians, it was about the past. And so, you know, for my son going to public school and you know, he tells his friends, you know, well, they're learning about Indians, and he's like, well, I'm Indian, and they're like, what? You know, where's you going? You know, yeah, and so yeah, that's a big you know, burden, I think, for our young people. I think that's why our young people are also in crisis. You know, it's about identity, and the identity of, you know, Native identity is always under attack because the psychopaths in charge want it to be a past tense instead of a present tense.
Right.
Yeah, and the insurgency to that is keeping it in the present tense, even with people that you love, you know, or that you care about. That start speaking in the past tense, you start speaking in the present tense, and it reminds them to, you know, switch their mind around. And that whole thing.
Unfortunately, the Native culture is rooted in history, you know, and even our tribal legislators and all that still speak in past tense.
Yes.
And I think it's to make us believe that we have no future.
Yeah, absolutely.
Other than what is issued to you.
Absolutely.
You know, if you have no choice in creating the future.
Yeah. You know, and you know what? What our future has boiled down to is we can paint our faces and we can put on our regalia and we can make a good commercial.
Mm-hmm. And we can beg for our basic human rights.
Absolutely.
And put up a casino.
And put up a casino. Put up many casinos.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I do believe that it serves a purpose, but it's not serving its purpose right now. And
yeah,
it's a double-edged sword, really, the casino thing. But if it was used right by the right people, I'm hopeful now with the new administration in place that we're going to get away, because for the past 20 years, Kara never elected a chief, because a chief was never elected in the past 20 years. They just kept putting him in office and putting him in office. And for the past 20 years, this particular chief, who everybody praised on the way out the door, is the same one that used our people over and over again for show.
Mm-hmm.
To bring tourists to that casino, and never spoke a bit of the language, and only wore the regalia because it looked good, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm hoping that the guy who took his place, his assistant chief, is going to get away from that, because from here on out with this new administration, my platform is to be that we are no longer going to be used as a people. This new chief, he hasn't been elected in yet. He's been appointed because the other one stepped down, which was well choreographed. You know, but there has to be an election next year, so we have a whole year to change. And right now, the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma has made themselves very prominent, you know, in the Native communities with their successes in the guise of progress.
I'm curious, you know, is there a man that you are aware of who could run, who is a speaker, who is a Choctaw man through and through?
I do know a man like that, and I'm not saying that man is me. I do know men like that, men who mentored people like me.
Because, I mean, that's what the nation needs to bring up and push up themselves into the leadership role.
Absolutely. But because of the Constitution and the way it was written, when it was ratified in 1983, and hasn't been changed since, it requires 2/3 of the citizen vote to either change the Constitution or protocol, because they don't allow you to have, they don't allow any opponents to have the voters list. Oh, it's a very corrupt system.
Well,
it requires 2/3 of the citizenship to ban change. And when they keep recruiting people down to the 1,024th, they've made it so spread out that that's impossible.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
it's a setup.
It is a setup, and you know what? Our tribal government couldn't have planned it. This was in the plan in the 1800s. Andrew Jackson planned it.
Yeah, and planned blood quantum, and planned tribal land trust, planned all that out.
Absolutely.
You know, every generation gets fucked in a new way with those laws.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I couldn't say better.
You may have land and trust, but you can't do anything with it because throughout the time it's been fractionated between all the different generations of people, and so the government says, well, we will manage it in trust for you.
Absolutely.
And what they end up doing is they let non-native ranchers and power companies and gas and oil companies come in and rape the land further.
Yep.
Rape the land further and then give the Indians pennies on the dollar, you know, if even, right? If even. Yeah. And all that money they never got gets accidentally put into the general fund. Oops. And they're finding out the more they look into it, the more billions and billions and billions that they didn't even know, that Louise Coble didn't even know about. Because there's a lot of Indian lawyers looking into it, and they're finding more and more and more money. And then they want to...
You know what? I haven't received a penny of Cobell. And you know why? Because I don't rely on Cobell.
Right.
I rely on the works of my own hands and my own 2 feet to support my family. I'm not counting on anybody's promise from 300-400 years ago to make my way in the world. And unfortunately, I'm imploring all our natives and indigenous people, stop relying on treaties. Quit hiding behind them in an effort to get out of doing some work. Get out there and do something. Pushpa.
Yeah.
Yep. Don't have permission, just do it. And that's why, I mean, we looked all into, you know, the whole issues of raising a native child in a non-native world versus, you know, should we move to the reservation? We couldn't get a job there. There was no way to make a living, so we went where the jobs were. And so he's not immersed in the culture, but, you know, we do the best that we can to teach him who he is, and he knows who he is. You know, he has his name, and so he knows who he is. So,
well, ultimately, that's your job.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is. It is.
And unfortunately, nowadays, got too many parents that are too lax to not teach them. I mean, let's face it. See parents updating their Facebook status right next to their kids. I realize that they're not going to learn anything from them, except how to update their Facebook status. You know, especially when it comes to culture. And, I mean, not just native culture, but just culture in general, just our society that has become disconnected with actual contact with each other. And it was so refreshing because, you know, even though, and I don't say this to demean any reservation Indian, but the way things are simpler on the reservation. And because there's less to worry about. I mean, really, in that way, maybe it is better. I mean, you never have to worry about, you know, getting kicked off the res, you know, or anything like that. But I can see that they're so connected, though, because they have very few worries on the res when it comes to those kind of things. But you can only go so far with that. And You know, I mean, if you plan to live in an area for the rest of your life, if you don't plan on going anywhere, that's fine too. Then the res might be for you. But really, the human race was meant to explore.
Right.
You know?
That's what we've been doing.
We're supposed to share. We can't share to stay on a reservation and move around. We're actually being selfish. And and I know a lot of my friends are gonna be like, "You saying us?" No, I'm not saying that. And they know me well enough to know. But some of them wouldn't hear not on any of my brothers and sisters over in Mississippi because I love them all. I learned very much in the 2 weeks that me and my family were down there, and we were welcomed back with open arms, and they knew we were there genuinely to learn about us, not just to bring it down. Look, I went to Mississippi, and this is what we are, and this is what we do, and I need $10.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean,
I love seeing those pictures because they really mean a lot to me because that's who I am. That's where my my people are from, Mississippi and Louisiana. So
we've got over 1,000 pictures that we haven't even edited yet from Mississippi and Louisiana. We stopped in Jena, Louisiana to see another band of Choctaws over there. As a matter of fact.
Yeah.
I mean,
I did see that. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, it was awesome, and it really defined how we migrated and why our language is actually the mother of Muskogean dialect, because there are so many different bands of Choctaws in different states, and we actually moved in the way we migrated, and I saw why Choctaw Nupa touches so many other tribes, because we all spoke that same language.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting to get down to your roots, you know, and travel the same path. And anyone can never lie to you if you go and see for yourself.
Yannash, can I ask what city or town in Oklahoma you're near?
I am near Durant. I live in Madrid.
Oh, Durant. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so I'm in Chickasaw territory. I live in Chickasaw territory.
Okay. Because the next time this Swami body is in Oklahoma, I'm coming knocking on your door.
Hey, our door's open and our garden's full.
Outstanding. I want to see a stickball game.
Hey, I got extra sticks too.
Yeah, I want my son to learn that. I think
he'll learn that. Play.
Yep.
The only way to learn is to play. So I got extra sticks when y'all come down.
Okay, great. And the great way to learn the language too is through music, and that's because it really sticks in your head when you have a tune to go along with it. And so that's one of the things I think you're getting into as well as the music, because that's how you learned. Is really with the hymn.
Talk about him.
That's how you get it. Yeah. I really want to hear them now that you told us about that aspect of it. I really want to hear them.
You know what? And you really want to hear them translated.
Yes. So have you done any videos of that?
I'm just translating, but like I said before, these are medicine songs. If you would like to come to my house anytime, and I would gift you with that knowledge, and you can gift it with your family. But I think that right there, I think I'd rather keep that public like that. Because those songs have power. Those songs have power, and right now we have a lot of Choctaw singing those songs that don't understand a word of Choctaw, and they don't. And those songs have no power unless you know what they mean.
Right. That's
there's two common songs, and I'm not going to say which ones they are, that are sung all the time at little shows and all the things they do here in Oklahoma to impress tourists or whatnot, and they're healing songs. They're healing. And
the words don't carry the spirit. You infuse the spirit into the words.
That's right. And if you don't know what those words mean, well, then you're singing nothing, really.
Might as well be reciting the ABCs.
Yeah.
And line dancing.
Right. But when you hear the most powerful, these words translated, you will understand why they are healing. And
yes.
And you won't sing the Amazing Grace tune or whatever tune they happen to be, fashioned for. You will hear the song in your head. It will come to you. I promise you. Nobody.
I get
nobody,
it.
Yeah, nobody give you that. I mean,
right.
It's a gift.
Yeah.
I hate when gifts like that are given to us, and then for the pleasure and leisure of other people, it's just showcased,
right.
and it leaves a bad taste in your mouth.
It's inauthentic. It's and it like kind of makes you cringe. It hurts your heart.
It does hurt my heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very much so hurts my heart.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
But for the most part, you guys let your listeners know that if they will type in my name in the YouTube, that's my channel, Yannash Scott. And,
yep, I have it on the I have it on the like page right under the link for this show. I have your YouTube channel link under there for those who want to check you out.
Anybody wants to check it out, check it out. And any questions, just post them on there. I will eventually get to them and answer them because I have people asking me Choctaw questions every day. And but I eventually get around to everybody. But
yep.
I also have a Facebook account, and I post new lessons in our little language group. Sometimes I go months without posting one, but that gives you time to absorb what I've already put out there, Everyone that watches these videos to pick the noun that I happen to be talking about that day and replace that English word with that Choctaw word. It works. Hey, babe, can you get me a glass of vodka? Can you give me a glass of vodka?
Yep.
Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Instead of saying salt, say hoppy. Hey, pass the hoppy. And eventually it will come out. You know what I've learned is that there are so many Indians in the world that are ashamed speaking their language.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I'll speak Choctaw to them, and they're ashamed. They're afraid to speak it because they're afraid for someone to say, oh, that's not how you say that. We've gotten real bad about that here, Lex.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they automatically be like, I don't need to know Choctaw anyway. I don't need to get a job. I don't need it to go to college. I don't need it for anything. And according to the U.S. government, absolutely. Yeah, if we needed to speak Choctaw everywhere. You know what? All countries I've been to and all the languages I've learned, I've never been to a country where they didn't speak English.
Right.
Ain't that crazy? I didn't really have to learn anybody's language. I didn't have to learn anybody's language the whole time I was in the military. I just did because I was in it. Was, it was the point of interest. And plus, I wanted to get off the beaten path.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to meet the people and learn their cultures, But, to be honest with you, I didn't have to learn any language while I was in the military because there was never a place I went to where they didn't speak English.
Yeah, and English, doesn't really encompass the things that you want to bring across to people. In English doesn't cut it a lot of times.
No, you've got one word for love. And how many applications of that concept?
Right.
Right.
Oh, I love this. Really? You love it? You love it? Love life. I love art. But, you're right.
That's why language and culture are one. They're because when you're speaking the Choctaw language, it encompasses the nuances of the culture that will never come across in English because it's not a part of that culture. So,
well, it's like the Inuit people have 30 words for snow. Well, because in their world, you need 30 words for the environment and what all's going on, you know?
I was just getting ready to say that. In Choctaw, there are 20, 30 words for one word. And they all mean the same thing.
Right.
You know? And there's a confusion that, you know, but I've been to other countries where they use 20, 30 different words, the same word. You know? But English is
limited.
really one of the
limited.
Yeah, it is limited. It's all language for people. It's a harder language for people. Now, you come here to the Americas, though. I mean, they're brainwashed and they just totally annihilated our culture decimated it with boarding schools and religion.
Yeah.
And it was an evil. It really was. People were like, "Well, it's a good thing we brought God to the Native Americans." We had God.
But really, it hasn't worked out so well for us. If that's God, give me the fucking devil. Shit.
We had God.
Yeah.
God was in everything we did. I mean, God was in our crops, in our sun, in our sky, in our rain. We knew God. We walked with God.
Yeah.
You
and
know?
God was not some far-off, bearded sky daddy just sitting up there getting pissed off at what you do by nature.
Right.
You know what?
And everything.
Even, not just Choctaws, but human beings in general were charged guardians of Mother Earth.
Right.
All of us.
Uh-huh. All of us. So,
everything we do is God, or Hashtali, or Chihuahua, or whatever you want to call that person, or your creator, the one that created this earth. You're a charged guardian of this planet.
Right. The Great Spirit gave us to us, and in order for it to continue on into the hands of our children and grandchildren, we have to manage it properly.
Absolutely. And set the right example, too, and morals. You know, and that's the biggest thing is this lack is on with the kids anymore. I mean, we hand them a phone and leave them to their own devices. That's not, I mean, we got to set a basis first. There's got to be a foundation, and it's got to be outside that little electric box in their hand.
Right.
Well, now the people, the nation in Oklahoma, due to our technological prowess, now has the ground shaking under its feet.
Absolutely. And you know what?
That's never happened before.
And I don't know if any of y'all realize, but I've fight the Keystone Pipeline for 2 years now, and I have demanded that our tribal government tell the people what our hand is in it, because we were the gatekeepers for this southern leg, the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma. Right. And we were supposed to be protecting our sacred lands and our sacred water. And I confronted that new chief, the one who's chief now, last year when he was just assistant chief, and I confronted him and made him sign our petition to save our sacred lands and water. And you know what? That southern leg went on through.
Yeah, it did.
I wasn't asked if it was all right. But he asked me, "Hey, Yannash, is it all right if we put this pipeline out here on Choctaw land?" No.
Yeah. And the whole fracking thing. Really I mean, people don't understand that for a few pennies, the land and the water table is being ruined.
Yeah, even the same people who are like, they're just staunch supporters for Keystone XL and TransCanada, and they're like, well, they do our family right. They're going to do your family right. This pipeline's gone. Now they're looking for jobs. Once the pipeline is complete, they're going to be looking for jobs again.
Yep.
When did we become the jump bandwagon type of people anymore? Why don't we look ahead? You know? And what was that change?
And you know, the biggest thing that people believe about that is that it's a job creator and that it will bring us oil. We ain't getting any of that. That's all
going to China.
That's the whole reason for the pipeline is it's going to be exported. We won't get any of that. And as far as permanent jobs, even the State Department says it's like under 30. Under 30? Really? Under 30 jobs is what we're going to sell the integrity of our water supply and our food supply, which is already poisoned anyway with GMOs and chemicals and pesticides and herbicides. And, you know, we're at a breaking point here, and we have to make a stand and say no. So people are doing it. They're putting their bodies on the line for it because, you know, and with fracking, you know, once your well is poisoned, it's poisoned.
That's right.
It's not going to go back.
We're not.
You know, once you light it on fire, it's not going back.
Yeah.
To be impure.
And the elements aren't supposed to mix. The water's not supposed to make fire. Come on, figure it out.
Right. Basic. And it's illegal to, you know, to say what's in that fracking juice that they shoot in the earth to break it apart.
Yeah, I mean they're totally misleading the public about what's going on, you know. And I don't care how deep they're shooting that shit into the ground. You know, there's seepage. Yeah. I don't care what you say. There's seepage.
Mm-hmm. And there's effect. It's cause and effect.
They're having earthquakes. Lots of them.
Hey man, we've had 12 in the past. Yeah, we've had 12 in the past 3 weeks.
Right.
12 recorded earthquakes in Oklahoma in the past 3 weeks. Is that not insane?
It doesn't make. I mean, that's not normal.
No.
Anybody knows that's not normal.
Right, and what's even more insane is that people who have spent all their lives in this state are willing to turn a blind eye to it. I mean, and they can tell you, 20 years ago, you never heard of an earthquake. Something is causing it. You know what's causing it.
Yeah. So now you guys got to run from earthquakes and tornadoes? I mean,
tornadoes. Right.
Let's pick one and stick with that. Jeez, now you got both?
Yeah. Quake-nados. Shark-nados.
Yeah. Shark-nados is... Yeah. They're creating monsters.
That's right.
That's the way things were set up, was that, you know, we all have different things to worry about. And it was in California that we worried about earthquakes, and the Midwest we worried about tornadoes, and, you know, on the East Coast we worried about hurricanes, and, you know, in the Gulf region and stuff. And now it's all getting mixed up, and we're having tornadoes everywhere and earthquakes everywhere, and, you know, and it's a simple cause and effect.
Well, here in my neighborhood, okay, just north of me is Chicago, and they're talking about the return of the polar vortex, going to be driving temperatures down again. It's like, oh, well, but it's not going to cause snow or any of that. But for some reason, the jet stream is dumping. You know, this ain't good. This is not the way the planet's supposed to work.
No.
Yeah.
No. And you know what? It's all the way here in Oklahoma. That polar vortex is going to hit everyone in this area when it dips.
Before last year, had anyone ever heard those two words in that order before? Polar vortex?
No.
Right? Well,
I'm like, wait a minute, I didn't get the memo. I don't know where the hell that comes from.
Brand new word. Hey, we got it here now.
We got snowy owls down here in Virginia during the winter, and it snowed like 2 or 3 times a week. All winter. It was like, oh, yeah, it was out of, woo, yeah. And my husband saw the snowy owl and was like, kind of rubbing his eyes. Is that what I'm seeing? I saw on the news that, yes, you are seeing snowy owls. They are down here. They actually said it on the news because a lot of people, I guess, called in. It's like, I just saw a snowy owl down here. Yeah.
Well, hey,
there's some changes.
Kira, Swami, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you guys having me today, and unfortunately, I got to move on to another appointment.
Okay.
But let all your folks know that they can find me on on YouTube, and if they care to be a part of the Choctaw Nipah Preservation Society, which is our Choctaw language page, they can friend me on Facebook, and I will put them in the group. And be on the lookout for more lessons because I'm working on them. I'm coming up with new ideas every day, and before the summer is up, there should be 2 or 3 more lessons coming out, brand new lessons coming out.
Excellent. Yannash, our folks are your folks, too. There's just folks, really.
Right.
Thanks for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me, folks. Hey, and in our language, we don't say goodbye. We say we see you later, and we say chapisa latki.
Chapisa
All righty, thank you. Yako K.
Ome. Chapisa latki.
Bye-bye.
We'll be back in a minute after this musical interlude on the bridge. Brothers and sisters, welcome back to The Bridge, where we meet every Sunday to discuss what is important in our communities, in our souls, and in our minds. Please welcome back Kira Young.
Thanks, Swami. Thanks, listeners, for joining us. And that conversation that we just had was even better than I imagined. Really special to hear. Someone whose work I've admired for a long time and who I've learned a lot from. Just to be able to connect in the way that we did, and so it was a great conversation. And I'm glad everybody that has joined us was able to hear that, and all the people who will be able to hear it on the podcast and also on YouTube. All these shows are YouTubed, and we also have, there's a couple things coming out that Justin from Lifting the Veil with Carrie Lee has been working on. Carrie Lee and I did a little short thing and that I'm going to put out after the show tonight, and it is just basically about how we're feeling about some of the things that are going down in the world today, and I think you'll enjoy it. It's one of our little mother rants, and so I'm going to put that out right after the show. And then also I did an interview with Vinny Eastwood, and Justin worked on a YouTube of that as well, and so I'll put that out. And if anybody has any questions they need to ask me about, resources or things they've heard in the show that they want to know more about, or I've also been getting requests, like, I really like to see this person on your show, that person on your show, from listeners, and that's been working out really well. So don't be afraid to let me know, hey, I'd really like to see this person on your show or hear this person on your show, and because I've actually picked up a couple of people that way. In the future, we're going to have some really good shows coming up, and not only are we going to be doing individual interviews with one person, but we're going to move into a panel phase too, and we're going to go back and forth between doing panels.
Ooh, a round table?
Yeah, round tables.
Excellent.
A lot of people really like your contribution to the show, Swami, and they really like. I get a lot of little notes about that, and people really appreciate it. So, and so they're liking the whole panel idea. And Carrie Lee came up with a good idea for a panel. We're having Thomas Sheridan back on August 3rd, but Carrie Lee is going to join us, and the four of us are going to talk about the breakdown of the family and how that's really what we're facing. It looks like a war on women, it looks like a war on men, it looks like a war on children, but it's really all one big thing that we're dealing with, and
it's
that we need
targeting
to come together.
Family unit.
Yes.
With various tools and tactics to attack each member and pull them away.
Exactly. So it's tailored to each member, and it's all one big thing. And so we're going to talk about that. And next week we're going to have Suzanne Posel back, and that'll be great. That'll be a lot of fun. She's a great guest.
Yeah.
And then after her, we have Ted Torbich back, and we apologize for the prior time when he was supposed to be here. It was kind of both our faults. So we're really glad that he was able to reschedule, and we're really looking forward to talking to him too. So we've got a lot of good things planned, and things are coming together. If you did not check out the lounge last night, that was the Type 1 Radio Lounge. That was a really great discussion that we had as well, where we interviewed a Canadian ayahuasquero, Jim Saunders, and who also will be coming on the bridge at some point when it works into his schedule. So we got a lot of good conversations coming on, a lot of learning that we're doing from each other and with each other, and I'm really excited about the show, and I'm really thankful that people care enough to listen to it, and that people are getting something out of it.
Yes.
I mean, that's really what I am shooting for, is that, I've learned a few things along the way, and I'm glad that when I share them that it actually, has meaning and helps people. And so that's why when you go onto my my like page, I have myself listed as a teacher because they ask you to categorize yourself, and so that's what I categorize myself. It's because that's really what I've always been, no matter what I've been doing, and the way that I make my living has always been, in the control grid has always been as a secretary, because I guess I look the part, and it's part of one of the things that I haven't been able to be the teacher that I am in academia or anything like that. And we could kind of look at it as, well, the master's program that I chose with Matthew Fox and learning from religious and spiritual leaders from all over the world and all different traditions is not really something that, our culture really values, but it is something that a lot of people value. And I guess I found a way to share what I've learned with people and to learn more while I'm sharing.
That was why I invited you to the Type 1 Network, because I saw that not only would you be effective and uplifting to the female demographic, but also to various cultures that are not going to be drawn to what we were doing previously.
Right. Yeah, and this whole thing has it's really quite a blessing.
And you know what's interesting to me is the more culturally diverse we get, the more we find we're exactly the same.
Yeah, that we're really all faced with the same challenges, and coming up with solutions together is pretty exciting. And it's exactly what the psychopaths in charge don't want us to do. So it's our form of insurgency as well. And
we're damn good at it.
Yeah, it's working. We're flying under the radar, and the people that are meant to hear our shows are hearing our shows, and not doing this for money or anything like that. People are welcome to donate to my fund to try to pay my exorbitant dish bill, because I have data usage limits, and so I end up sometimes having to pay extra money in order to do my show, because it takes up data to do the show. So if anyone wants to donate to that, they certainly can do that. But otherwise, this is free and available to anybody who wants or needs it. I can find various ways to feed my family, like a garden, and I can play the role of a secretary if I need to, which is what I'm doing now.
Well, it becomes it's helpful to be able to walk in both worlds, because then you can very well represent the experiences of both worlds to those who may not have that experience.
Right. Yeah, and those who may not know, I work for a federal agency, so that's how I get some insight into how things actually really work. And the biggest message I would have, for people who are really paranoid about the government and stuff like that is government's not really making the decisions, the corporations are. So the government is actually a cog in the wheel of the corporation. So it looks like the government's a big bad guy, and in many cases it is. But as far as NSA spying and all this other stuff, take it with a grain of salt, because just as all powerful as the government is, they're just as much complete and total utter buffoons that really wouldn't know what to do with the data, anyway, because bureaucracies attract psychopaths, because they have a roadmap in which to, the bosses are who you ingratiate yourself to, and people lower, who are non-managers are the ones who are disposable and that you can play with and mess with, and it was by being targeted in that particular way that I learned about how this works. because even though we have all these EEO laws and civil rights laws and everything, they don't mean shit because they don't protect anyone from anything. And it's just part of the illusion that we're progressing.
You're right.
That our government is actually,
it's all a big puppet show. And if you look at the guy who's running all the puppets, then he shrinks back.
Yeah, exactly. So eventually, I will eventually fly long enough under the radar that I won't be under the radar anymore, and that's when they'll get rid of me. So I do have to figure out some alternative means.
Well, there are, I don't know if you've been aware of this, but this Swami taps into a whole lot of different kinds of media and opinions and things, but from people deep within both the intelligence community and the financial world, it seems there could be some event of some kind before the end of this month that's going to make a significant change in our daily lives. Have you seen things of that nature?
I have not.
Okay. Well, they're out there. So, folks, the time and effort to prepare yourself, get water, get food. This only makes sense.
Be prepared for anything. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Love and blessings to everyone.